Hello and welcome into this week's ARCA Menard Series preview show right here on Racing News Now. As always, I'm your host, Garth Allen. Thank you once again for joining me today. If this is your first time catching a Racing News Now video, consider going down below to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. On today's ARCA preview show, we're looking ahead to this afternoon's General Tire 200 from the Talladega Superspeedway, race number 4 of the 2019 ARCA Menard Series schedule. So let's quickly catch you up on how we have gotten to this point in the season. 3 races in now. Travis Braden is your current points leader, leaving Salem Speedway 2 weeks ago. He only sits 5 points up on Michael Self, though, who is on quite the tear right now after the bad luck he had at Daytona, out at lap 3, didn't even really get a chance to compete at Daytona. He has come back in really the strongest way possible and has flat dominated the last 2 weeks, winning at Five Flags and at Salem. Michael Self on quite the tear right now and has completely erased the deficit that he had leaving Daytona. Brett Holmes currently sits in third, 20 points back from Travis Braden. Joe Graf Jr. in fourth, 55 points off the leader. And Christian Eckes, 80 points back in the 5th position. He went into Salem leading the points and unfortunately had to sit the race out due to complications from food poisoning. It was not a good weekend for Christian Eckes. He came into that race way ahead. He had built himself a really good cushion. For being 2 races into the season, he had built himself a really good cushion. And unfortunately, not being in the race, that drop kicked him all the way back to 5th, 80 points off the lead. He is back in the car this week, though, and looking to regain that lost ground that he dug himself at Salem. So let's look back at last year's race at Talladega for the ARCA Menard Series. Who could forget this classic photo finish last year between Zane Smith and Joe Graf Jr., Smith beating Graf to the line by about 3 inches. It was not very much. It was the closest finish in ARCA Menard Series history, and what a finish it was. Talladega always seems to produce some really good finishes. Last year was no exception. Of course, Zane Smith not in the race this year. Joe Graf Jr. is, though, and he is looking to make up those lost 3 inches from last year and park himself in victory lane at Talladega. Was not able to get that first career win at Talladega last year. Did pick it up later in the season, though, if we remember, at Berlin Raceway. So Joe Graf Jr. looking for career win number 2 today from the Talladega Superspeedway. But because this is a one-day show, as most ARCA races are, the way the logistics of the day works out, unfortunately, we can't really do practice times or qualifying times on the preview show here. So just the way this schedule for the day works out, we can't really get any of that in. If you want to know practice times, check out our Twitter at RNN_all_access. We will be tweeting practice times, qualifying times, lap by lap during the race, all of that today. So check out our Twitter. If you're not already following us, you need to be for all your updates from Talladega today. But we will take a look at the entry list for today, as that's really the only thing we've got to go on at this point. And as usual, we have 3 cars from Fast Track Racing this week. We've got the 1 for Ed Pompa. We've got the 10 for Tommy Vi Jr., who is, of course, the 1 full-time driver for Fast Track Racing this season. And then D.L. Wilson will be in the 11 car. Or Motorsports bringing 2 cars this week. Of course, their usual entrants at the Superspeedways, Andy Seiss in the 02 and C.J. McLaughlin in the 09. DGR Crosley bringing a couple cars this week. The 4 of Todd Gilliland being one of those. Bobby Gerhart, as he usually is here in Talladega and will, of course, be putting on a show as he usually does. The restrictor plate legend that is Bobby Gerhart. Wayne Peterson Racing bringing the 06 car as they have every week this season. This week piloted by Con Nicolopoulos. Thomas Prater back in that 9 car this week. Haven't seen him in a while, but he will be in the race today at Talladega in the 9 car. And then, of course, Christian Eckes, as we mentioned, back in that 15 car this week. Back healthy and ready to go in this race. Riley Herbst back in the 18 car this week. Ty Gibbs, of course, not old enough to run the Superspeedway races, so Riley Herbst running those races this year in the 18 car, while Ty Gibbs runs everything he is eligible for. Brandon Lynn back in a Venturini Motorsports car this week in the 20 car, looking for that first career ARCA victory. Ty Majeski added Talladega to his ARCA schedule this season for Chad Bryant Racing here last minute. I believe that was announced just a couple days ago that he would be in this car, in the 22 car for Chad Bryant Racing here at Talladega. Brett Holmes, the hometown kid, and this race, still looking for ARCA career win number 1. Looking to do it at his home race in the 23 car. Michael Self looking for his 3rd win in a row in that 25 car, just on quite the hot streak right now, and looking for that 3rd win in a row. We know he can do it on super speedways. He did it at Daytona last year. See if he can pick up the Talladega win as well. Travis Braden, of course, as he is every week in that 27 car for RFMS Racing. Brandon Mcreynolds back in the 28 car this week. We saw him at Daytona in that 28 car for KBR Development. He is back this week at Talladega. Speaking of which, 3 drivers in this field with a Talladega win in ARCA, Brandon Mcreynolds being one of those. He won back in 2012. Gus Dean picked up his first career win here in 2016. And then, of course, the other driver with a Talladega win is Bobby Gerhart, who has so many restrictor plate wins in ARCA. He is your 3rd driver in the field with a win at the Talladega Superspeedway. Grant Quinlan back this week. We saw him at Daytona in that 30 car for Rhett Jones Racing. Gus Dean also back this week, taking advantage of an off weekend for the trucks. He will be in that 32 car for Wintron Racing. Good to see them back, as well as they were not at Five Flags or Salem either. So good to see that car back, as well as Gus Dean back in the ARCA Menard series. Empire Racing also back this week. Sean Corr, as usual, in the 43 car. And Thad Moffitt is back in the 46 car, grandson of Richard Petty. Brad Smith, as usual, in the 48 car this week. Natalie Decker bringing the 2nd DGR Crosley car this week. She'll be in the 54, her 2nd of 3 ARCA races this season. Brian Dowza at the Super Speedways, as he usually is, in that 57 car. Scott Melton will be in the 69 for Kimmel Racing this week. And, of course, Joe Graff Jr. looking to make up that lost 3 inches from last year and park it in victory lane at Talladega. All right, so now that we are through the entry list, it is time to pick a winner for today's race, and then we will tell you about today's schedule for today as well. If you're watching this as a premiere, let us know down in the live chat. Who do you think is going to win today from Talladega? I know it's a crapshoot. It is the Super Speedway. It's hard to make predictions for these races. I know, believe me, I know. If you're watching this later, let us know down in the comments. Who do you think is going to win today from Talladega? My pick today for the General Tire 200. Like I said, it's just kind of a crapshoot picking for Talladega or Daytona. I've said it in the past. I will say it again. It is like throwing darts at a dartboard trying to pick a winner for a Daytona or a Talladega race. That being said, there are a lot of very strong cars in this field, a lot of cars that have very good chances at winning this race. I am going to go with Joe Graff Jr. I think he picks up those extra 3 inches that he didn't get last year, parks it in victory lane, and picks up career win number 2 in the ARCA Menard series. Had kind of a slow start to the season, was not very fast in Daytona, was not very fast at Five Flags, but that team showed a lot of speed in Salem. The 77 car was fast. I don't know that they had race-winning speed, but they definitely showed some speed in Salem, and I think they've turned the corner, and I think they're about to show us some really good performances going down the stretch here through the bulk of the season. Now that we're really entrenched in the bulk of the season here, really Salem to the second Pocono race, that is really the bulk of the season here. We don't have a lot of off weeks here until the end of July. I think Joe Graff Jr. and that 77 team is really going to show us some good performances here over the summer stretch in this season. So, your schedule for today's action, of course, practice this morning from 8:30 to 9:55. Qualifying coming up later today, though. That'll be at 2:35 p.m. All of these times Central Time. So if you are not in the Central Time Zone, these are local to the track. The time's local to the track. So if you're not in the Central Time Zone, adjust these accordingly to your time zone. 2:35 p.m. for qualifying, and then 5 p.m. Central is the start of the General Tire 200 this evening. It will be live on Fox Sports 1, so more people, I'm sure, will be able to see it than what are usually able to see it when it's on MAV TV. That's not a knock on MAV TV. There's just not a lot of people that get MAV TV, unfortunately. So if you can't watch it on TV, or if you want a little something extra, if you need practice and qualifying times to keep you updated throughout the day, you got to check out our Twitter. You got to give us a follow at RNN_all_access. We will be tweeting practice times today, not just for ARCA, but for everything happening this weekend from Talladega, Xfinity, and Cup Series as well. We will keep you updated on practice times, qualifying, everything you need to know, lap-by-lap coverage from these races. Everything you need to know, it will be on our Twitter this weekend, live and in the moment, as it usually is. So, that is about it for today's ARCA preview show. So thanks for joining us. As always, if you haven't done it already, you need to go down below, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. ARCA Rewind show probably will be up tomorrow, as we probably will need to figure out logistics on when to do the winter interview, so it probably won't be up until sometime on Saturday. But we will keep you updated on that as to exactly when it goes up. But yeah, that probably will be sometime on Saturday. Xfinity Rewind, probably sometime Saturday evening, depending on if we have a winter interview for that as well. Cup Rewind, as well as a Cup Preview, both on Sunday. And then Pole Position, as usual, coming up Monday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern, to recap you on everything that happened this weekend in the world of motorsports. So with that, this has been the ARCA Menard Series Preview Show. I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.